Right guys, workshop walls, ceiling are all freshly painted and now it's time to start preparing the floor. I've got to sand it down. Been using the workshop for about 3 years now and there's loads of paint and different stuff spilt on it, lumps and bumps, and if the floor ain't perfectly flat or as flat as I can possibly get it, then the floor tiles will be thrown out of whack. So what I'm going to do is use the belt sander to sand the whole floor. There's a couple of bits where the boards join up where there's very slight lip, so I'm just going to run the sander over it and then thoroughly sweep and hoover the floor, and then I can actually start laying the actual floor in. Right then guys, so I thoroughly sanded the entire floor. I've been round, made sure any screws that were sticking up slightly have been driven below the surface, and we're now ready to start laying the flooring. So I actually looked at quite a few different options for flooring, from the very cheapest, which would have been painting the floor, but I soon steered away from that because one, I didn't think it'd look that great, and two, I didn't think it'd hold up very well before it started wearing off. Then I looked at lino, the sort of thing you'd put in your bathroom or kitchen. I looked at laminate flooring. I looked at the PVC rubber interlocking floor tiles. And I also looked at the rolls of rubber matting that you can get. And if I'm honest, I didn't even know that plastic floor tiles was a thing until I spoke to Garage Floors Direct and actually started looking on their website. So when deciding on which flooring would be perfect for my needs, there was a few considerations which I thought were really important. The first one being price, second one being durability, and how easy they were to clean. So I'm on a really tight budget, so I didn't want to be spending a fortune on something that I'm just going to be walking on and wheeling workbenches around on. So that was the first thing to consider. I also wanted something that was fairly durable and would withstand having tool carts and workbenches wheeled across it. Not very far in my case because the space is absolutely tiny, but you know what I mean. And I didn't want something that was going to disintegrate if I dropped any kind of paints or chemicals on it, and I didn't want something that was just going to disintegrate under the weight of a heavy workbench. So the last criteria speaks for itself. How easy would it be to clean? Now, I do woodworking in here, so I create a mountain of dust. So I wanted something that could easily be swept or vacuumed up without the dust actually sticking to the flooring itself. And I also wanted it to be fairly easy to clean with spillages such as paints and finishes. So in the end I got mine from a company called Garage Floors Direct. I'll leave a link to their website in the video description, so feel free to go and check out the different types of flooring that they've got on offer. So I told them roughly what I was looking for, where I was going to be laying it, and that I make YouTube videos and have a relatively small channel at the moment. But they offered me 50% off the price of the flooring in return for a video. So I would be completely off my head to not accept an offer like that. So there was two options that I was looking at. The first one being the rolls of rubber matting that consist of a 5 metre by 1.2 metre roll, and it's 3mm thick. The second option were some lock together plastic floor tiles, and in the end I chose the plastic floor tiles, and they've just got like a female end and a male connector, and you just lock them together and they snap into place. These ones are fairly shiny and have the grid pattern on them. So here's a close-up of the floor tile. And these are a little bit over 30 by 30 centimetres, and you'll see that this one is the solid floor tile with the gridlock pattern. Now you'll notice it's got some female connections, and then if I flip it over you'll see that it's got the male connections, and basically what you do is just click it together and it snaps into place. What I like about these is some of the cheaper options you can get, these connections are only fitted to the outside part of the tile, whereas these are actually connected not only to the outside, they're also connected to the face of the actual tile and all the ribbing, and that's what gives it the strength. So these are actually made out of polypropylene, which is a really tough, hardened plastic, very durable and hard wearing. In the box they come in sets of 4 already fitted together, so if you're going for a single coloured floor, you can literally just get the set of 4 tiles which are already put together, put them in position, and then grab another set of 4 and click them in, and it's as simple as that. The other good advantage with these polypropylene floor tiles is they're made of a phase change material, which means it doesn't absorb heat and expand and retract, so no need to leave any expansion gaps, unlike your conventional PVC floor tiles where they recommend you leaving a small expansion gap. So you can literally butt these right up against the wall, and if you do your cuts right, it's not going to allow the floor to move at all, which I think is another added feature. Some people have said that these are a little bit noisy to walk on, especially if you group a small amount of tiles together and walk across it, you get that clacking plasticky sound. But a lot of people reckon that as soon as you've got the entire floor fitted, it quietens down. But just to give it a little bit of extra cushion, and this is a total unnecessary step that I'm doing, I'm going to be adding some 2mm foam underlay just to provide that additional support underneath. So just to give you a quick demonstration, you've got your female connections, and then along the opposite edge you've got your male connections. So to lock them together, you simply line up the 2 sets of connections. I find it a bit easier if you do it at an angle, and then it's as easy as that, and then you keep locking them together. So to get them out, I found the best way to do it is to angle them slightly and then just give it a very slight wiggle, and they come apart really easy. So normally, as I've said, these come in blocks of 4, so you'll have another 2 tiles here, and you would just lay them down and keep continuing, but you end up with a continuous seam, which I don't really like the idea of. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing it in a normal way, what I've chosen to do is I'm going to stagger the joints. So it does mean I'll start off with a full tile on the first row, and then I'll start with a half tile on the next row, then back to a full tile, then a half tile, and that way none of the seams are going to line up, they're all going to be staggered. So you'll notice that these actually click together really easily, so literally anyone can lay a floor like this. You might also notice I've actually cut the first row down in size, and that's so I can leave myself a slightly bigger strip at the opposite end. If I'd have started with a full tile, I would have ended up with a piddly little piece at the other end, which I didn't want. And then when you get to the last piece, it's worth taking a couple of measurements just in case your walls aren't running true, and that way you should get an accurate measurement. Then just cut it and fit it. It's a bit like laying laminate flooring, only you can't just take the bit that's left and start the next row, because you can only lock these together with the connections in certain places. But it's similar to laying laminate. So every other row, I'm going to be starting with half a tile. That way I can get the joints staggered. But because these only lock in on certain locations, I've locked two together. And then I'm going to use the square to just put a mark. And as long as I cut this side of the line, when I start the next row, they're going to be flush with the wall. So then, rather than making the cuts on each row, I decided to try and just lay a few rows out, leaving the cuts to do, to see if I could actually fit the pieces in afterwards. So I wasn't sure whether leaving bits like this was a good idea or not. So you're going to find out at the same time as me whether this is possible to do, because you've got to get this underneath on this side and that side. So hopefully I can get this to click into place, and once I get it in there and sort of lined up, I should be able to just knock it in place, hopefully. A little bit tight. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. Right, so one of the big problems when you've only got a small workshop is the fact you've got to work around everything. So now I need to get this workbench down this end of the workshop on top of the piece that I've already laid. But what you get when you order this flooring is a load of these ramps. They're designed to go on the edge of your garage door, so it gives a ramp for your car to drive up onto the flooring. So what I'm hoping is that if I just fit some of these in line with the wheels, that I'm going to be able to just wheel this onto this flooring without too many problems. It's either going to work or it's going to go terribly wrong. We're about to find out. Now, I know the floor can't shift because it's right up against the wall, so I'm hoping I can just pull this and it's going to come up easy. Maybe help if the wheels were actually facing the right way. So, plan B, I'm going to have to try and see if I can lift this up, but this thing weighs an absolute ton. It's one side, that's almost on. Oh yes, that's the first part. Oh, that was a little bit trickier, but good thing is, at least it seems to roll fairly easy on these, which is nice. I wasn't sure how well this was going to roll. Yeah, it seems to roll quite nicely. So now I can get to the rest of the floor. So here I'm actually decided to finish off the majority of the floor, leaving all the cuts and hard to reach areas until last. And you can see that it doesn't actually take that long when you're just putting in tile after tile after tile. Right, so I've got a few little bits to fill in down that side, and I've got to cut the last row against the door, and this is the reason why I cut the first row down, so I would end up with a slightly bigger piece at this end, because if I'd have started at that end with a full tile, by the time I got to here, I'd have a tiny little sliver. So by cutting down the first row up the other end, it's left me with probably a little over half a tile. So got that to do. And then it's going to be the more difficult area around the cabinets. I didn't want to stop the floor just under these for a couple of reasons. One, I'm OCD, and I didn't like the idea of just having the floor up to the cabinets. So I wanted peace of mind of having the floor go right across. But the biggest reason is, if I was to leave a gap, there's nothing to stop this part of the floor. All right, the weight of them feet are going to be in it, but it could move. Whereas if it goes from wall to wall, it keeps it like level and stops it from moving around. That is my idea and thinking behind that. So this is going to take a little bit of messing around, I think, but we are getting there and I'm liking it so far. Right, so I was hoping that I would be able to just kind of take the screws out, which are holding the units to the wall, and then I could get enough lift on it just to block it up in certain locations in order to lift the feet and get the flooring underneath. And then when I get to this area, I'll obviously move the block in and continue like that. But unfortunately, I couldn't get it lifted up enough. So, annoyingly, I've had to empty all the shelving and take that off the walls, remove all the drawers, and get rid of as much weight as possible. And hopefully now, with the use of some scraps of ply, I can actually work my way along, get the flooring under. But it does mean I'm going to have to spend a while trying to get all this level again, which, if I remember rightly, took me a while the last time. So, bit of a pain in the backside, but you got to do what you got to do. So one thing I would say, if you can, lay this before you build your cabinets and things like that, unless you can move them right out the way, because it actually took me a lot longer to do the bit underneath my mitre station than it did the rest of the floor. So here I'm actually putting in the last few pieces, and the very last two pieces that I put in were the most difficult because I couldn't actually get to the back edge of the tile in order to angle it in place before clicking it in. So it did take me a little while to get the last two pieces in, and you don't want to be whacking it too hard because the tabs on the piece you're putting in will damage the edge of the adjoining tile if you're not careful. Don't ask me how I know that. So there you go then guys, that is the flooring complete, and I've got to say, I absolutely love it. I think it transforms the workshop completely, and having the floor and the foam underlay under, I'm hoping might actually improve the insulation a little bit more, not a lot but a little bit, and will help to keep the heat in the workshop during the winter months. Can't comment on how it's going to hold up, whether it's going to dull down over time and lose its shine, but at the moment I'm really happy with it. I'm sure it's going to end up with a few knocks and scrapes over time, but to be honest, I'm not really worried about that because it is only a floor at the end of the day. So, happy days. So don't forget, if you're on the lookout for some flooring, have a look at the Garage Floors Direct website, see what they have on offer. And if you type the code GRUMPY5, all in capitals, you'll get 5% off your order. So might save you a few pennies. So I think someone may have a little bit of sorting out to do. So just before I end the video, I just wanted to throw in a couple of clips. If there's anyone out there thinking exactly the same as I did when I first saw the tiles and is wondering how strong and tough they actually are and if they can withstand having things dropped on them, etc. So I'm just going to throw a couple of quick clips in, and I was quite surprised actually just how strong they appear to be. Right guys, so that is the floor complete, and I've got to say I absolutely love it. I think it's transformed the workshop completely, and the good thing is it's relatively simple to install, so anyone with half a brain can lay this floor in. So the kind folk over at Garage Floors Direct have actually given me a 5% discount code for anyone that's after flooring products. So on their website, just type the code Grumpy5, all in capitals, that's GRUMPY 5, all in capitals, and you can benefit from 5% off. So as always, thanks for watching. If you're not already subscribed to the channel and you like this sort of thing, then why not consider subscribing. You can also follow me on Instagram. So until the next video, stay safe and you'll see me in the next one. Cheers for watching, guys.